Are you moving to Vermont and you just don't know whether you should buy or rent? Let's dive into the pros and cons of each and provide a little more insight on what may be the best decision for you. So stick around, you might find some answers to your questions. Welcome. If you're new to the channel, my name is Cote and I'm a local real estate agent with eXp Realty here in northern Vermont. For those of you looking to potentially move to the Green Mountain State, I'm here to provide insight, knowledge, and anything that you may need that's going to help you solidify your decision on whether or not Vermont is the right move for you. If you find value in what you hear, be sure to hit that like button, subscribe below, and tap the bell to get notified when new videos just like this one become available each week. Alright, jumping back to the topic of buying versus renting. Most agents won't tell you this, but it really depends on your situation. And while I'm a huge fan of buying over renting, sometimes it isn't in the cards, or it just doesn't make much sense for your current situation. The first question we generally ask is, can you qualify for a mortgage? There's a lot of confusion around what qualifications are needed or not needed around getting a pre-approval. Oftentimes we have people starting their search of what they think they can qualify for, only to find out down the road that they can't quite afford that price point. We've also had people get frustrated with their search and finding a home within what they thought their budget was, only to get pre-approved and find out that they could actually afford a much higher price point. In order to save some headaches, frustrations, falling in love with a home that you can't actually afford, and just taking the guesswork out of it all, I highly recommend speaking with a lender prior to your search. Plus, in the event you aren't quite qualified, lenders can often point you in the right direction on steps to take to get qualified. If you're looking for a few more tips and tricks on getting pre-approved, feel free to shoot me a message, and I'm happy to share some things I've learned over the years to help homeowners get to the point where they need to be in order to purchase their first home. The next thing to consider is whether or not you plan to stick around for the foreseeable future. Are you moving to Vermont to see what life here is like? Maybe you're here for an employment contract or schooling and you only plan on being here for a few years. Are you looking to settle down and plant some roots? If you aren't planning on being here for an extended amount of time, or maybe you're just unsure of what the future holds, renting may make more sense to you. Now, homeownership comes with its own laundry list of things that need to be taken care of on a regular basis. Upkeep, general maintenance, lawn care, paying bills. There's a lot of things that need to be done each month and kept up to date and organized, and it's not for everybody. If you find that paying rent and having a landlord take care of those things for you is worth the convenience, then that may be the better choice. Now, obviously, you can own a home and hire out some of the tasks mentioned above, but it's another expense that you need to take into consideration. Another option that sort of bridges the gap is to find a home with an HOA or a homeowners association. That takes care of some of those tasks to simplify your day-to-day. Again, it'll come at a cost with additional fees, but it's another option if you're looking for a combination of the two. Are you someone who likes to create a space and make it your own? Maybe you'd like to put some artwork on the walls or change up the paint scheme? A lot of rentals won't allow you this type of freedom, so if that's a deal breaker, it's something to keep in mind. Owning your own home, obviously, that's not the case. Next, which is sort of a hot topic recently, is interest rates. Right now, they're sitting in the mid-5s for your standard 30-year mortgage, and that's proven to be an issue for a lot of people. It's altered what people can afford for a monthly payment, and it may put them in a different price point that makes it harder to find a home that checks off a lot of their boxes. Now, have you heard the phrase, date the rate, marry the house? What that means is simply the house is a long-term commitment, whereas the rate isn't necessarily. You can always refinance down the road when the rate changes. The only problem is that we don't necessarily know when that may be. On the plus side, here in Vermont, we're starting to see some home prices drop a little bit, but at the same time, the homes are still appreciating. So the two can kind of combat the higher interest rates somewhat. It's just a matter of what you feel comfortable with. In general, Vermont doesn't seem to have as many peaks and valleys in the housing market as other states or larger metropolitan areas. Instead, we've seen a steady growth rate over the years that's much more gradual versus dramatic, which is another reason why I'm always a fan of buying in Vermont when the situation is right for you and the numbers make sense. So while we do still have some homes that are overpriced, unless that's your dream home you plan on living in forever or an extended period of time and you're willing to pay for that, as an investment or financial standpoint, I'd recommend continuing the search. So if you buy smart, you'll have an appreciating asset with numerous advantages you can capitalize down the road should you choose to do so. If you rent, you don't have those options and it's a little bit of a risk versus reward, and again, comes down to what your current situation is and what you're comfortable with. Moving on to the housing market and what does it look like on both the buying side and the renting side, Vermont has a strong need for rentals right now. In fact, we're a little over 1% for a vacancy rate. What does that mean? Well, A healthy vacancy rate is typically 3%. This shows that there's a solid balance between tenants and owners. If that percent jumps up to 4%, it generally means that there's too much supply, not enough demand. However, being at 1% puts the ball in the landlord's court. We're seeing record high rental rates in a lot of cases, which is making it difficult for those people who can't quite qualify for a home mortgage to even come up with a rent payment. And because the demand is so high, it's forcing many people out of their comfort zone as far as a payment goes, because they don't have any other choice and they need housing. So while you may not be qualified to pay your own mortgage, if you choose to rent or if you're forced to, you most certainly will be paying somebody else's. Now, if you want to pay your own mortgage, there's challenges that come with that too. Vermont's current housing inventory is very low, especially in that move-in ready $200,000 to $400,000 range. In the past, finding a $200,000 starter home that was move-in ready was no problem at all. Today, we're finding it harder and harder to find homes under $300,000 that don't need a little bit of love. In addition, there are many buyers still on the hunt to find a home under $400,000, which creates a competitive market if the homes are priced correctly and in that price point. If your budget's above $400,000, things start to level out some. It's a little less of the Wild West out there, and more homes are popping up. So if you're in the market for a new home, patience is key. If you're looking for a home in some of Vermont's popular towns, Essex, Burlington, St. Albans, you may want to consider expanding your search slightly outside of those city limits as we're seeing more and more opportunities begin to pop up. A lot of information to take in, and I'm not sure I made your decision any easier, so if you still have questions, drop them below in the comments, shoot me a text, send me an email, or give me a call. If you're thinking about making the move to Vermont and you'd like some help or just have general questions at this point, don't be afraid to reach out. I'm always happy to help. Thanks for watching. Be sure to like the video, subscribe below, and tap that bell for future notifications.